It's time for On Point with Julian Phillips.
Welcome to On Point. There's an old saying that many of you may know who are old enough. The only things that are certain for humans are two things: death and taxes. I don't want to talk about death right now. That's inevitable, of course, but I want to focus on taxes. In a democracy, in a democratic system like the United States, we do need taxes to fund government, to pay for Social Security, all those things that make a capitalist society work. That's a given, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. But when it comes to taxes, the question becomes in our society: who pays and how much? Now, I'm going to get a little bit personal with you. And I'm sure all of us have dealt with this. And of course, if you listen to radio like WBLS or any of these things, you hear all these commercials for, tax relief. We don't have to mention the names, but they're all there. And usually every now and then, most people have issues with their taxes, how much they pay. I'm talking about the average person. All right. And we're hounded by this. Your wages can be garnished. Your house can be taken away, or you can get a lien put on the house. It can affect your credit if you're behind in your taxes. These could be personal taxes. They could be for businesses that you own. And usually for most of us, not all of us, most of us have problems paying taxes because we're struggling in some form or sense. And we may have problems paying. But sometimes when it comes to the enforcement of paying taxes for non-payment, it almost seems like we are in a system of legalized, organized crime. It becomes a shakedown. And it becomes an emotional toll on you. I, for one, I've had a restaurant for 2 years. It was a great venture, but, for a number of reasons, we had to close it down. And I'm still dealing with the issue of paying taxes to the feds and to New York State. We're going to have to pay it. But of course, we get notices and, there's interest that's compounded daily. And it's a source of angst for us. So we think about that and trying to do the right thing. And of course, had a business that employed people and paid people money and, put money in people's pockets. But of course, we're left holding the bag with these taxes. Okay. It was yesterday or the day before. There was a story that came on the news. I happened to watch it on Morning Joe on 55 of the nation's largest companies that make billions of dollars have not paid taxes for the 2020 fiscal year. As a matter of fact, some of them have not paid taxes for the past 3 years. And then others have not paid taxes for decades. Now, we're talking about companies like FedEx, Nike, Duke Energy, if you've never heard of them. I mean, I can go down the list. I have the list of all these companies here. There's just a whole list. 55 Mohawk Industries. I mentioned Nike, Salesforce, Consolidated Edison, for those of you who live in New York, know about Con Ed, okay? And it goes on and on. Again, we're talking about companies that make billions of dollars in profits, but yet and still have not paid taxes. Now, the reason for this is, and it's multifaceted, they have loopholes. And they're loopholes that actually are designed, if you have a lot of money, if you have great lobbyists, you have great lawyers, that you can, not pay taxes. The average person like you and me, we don't have these kind of loopholes. We got to pay. And if we have lawyers, we have to pay them too. And, the farther you go, the more in the hole, the black hole, as I call it, you dig yourself in. But there are other things that major corporations also use too, that are designed to help the little guy, the small business guy. There's one thing that's called the CARES Act that was designed to help small businesses and people during the course of the pandemic. Well, it loosened a lot of tax laws that major corporations took hold of and were able to get around paying taxes. There are other things that big business uses, or wealthy people. Of course, Donald Trump, of course, has been a tempest in the teapot for this for years, has not released his tax returns. He's just one person. We may find out that he is not worth as much as he said that he is, but that's another story. That's just one thing. But I'm talking about big businesses here. All right? Taxes are the one thing that should not be political. Let me say that one more time. Taxes, the one thing that should not be political, but yet and still it is. So right now you have the Biden administration, Joe Biden, President Biden, that wants corporations and wealthy people to pay their fair share. Now, it seems like everybody should go along with this. Why wouldn't they be? But even wealthy people that make billions of dollars, I mean, Warren Buffett, he's certainly on board with this. But apparently a lot of big businesses are simply not. And they get away with things over and over and over again, where the little guys like you and me are getting chastised. We're getting punished. Now, for me, as a small business owner whose business does not exist anymore, maybe there could be some forgiveness of debt when you really don't have the money to pay for it. All your intentions were good, but you went out of business simply because you couldn't afford it or whatever it is. A lot of people lost their businesses during the pandemic. So what about that? Should we really have to pay those taxes? I mean, come on. And then you have these major corporations that are paying nothing. Now, what's political behind this? Shouldn't all Americans be outraged over people that don't pay their fair share? I want to know what's so political about that. If you're supposed to pay and you're not paying, why? Now, you hear this mentioned in the press, but as again, me who has talked about the media and what they don't do, being the watchdogs against government and for us and championing the cause of the American people. Why is this something that is not dissected and hammered home day after day after day? Right now, Afghanistan is in the front burner of everything. We haven't heard about Afghanistan much in the last, 10 years? But all of a sudden now it's the Afghan women and children. And stuff. I'm not saying that it shouldn't not be, but we were never really there in Afghanistan and that for the first place anyway. We were there for getting rid of Osama bin Laden. Some people say we were there for nation building, but the fact of the matter is we really weren't. All of a sudden that's front. Well, how come people are not more upset about the taxes? I know I am. When are we going to get some justice in this? And how do we get it? I don't have all the answers. I can't say I'm totally on point with getting us to a point where major corporations pay their fair share or wealthy people. But I will say this. I've said this time and time again on Point. We as American people who are concerned about the process of democracy, its survivability, its viability, must become more involved in the process. So if you have concerns about your taxes, which I do, then call your local lawmaker, your congressman, your city council person, whomever, your senator, and get on the case and just put the pressure on them to do the right thing. That's what you got to do. I'm not sure what else you can do, but at least we can do that. And, the fringes always control the conversation when it comes to elections. It's that small group on either the right or the left that drive politicians. Well, we don't need to be fringes anymore. We need to be the moral majority. I don't know if I should use that word, those words. But yes, That's what we can do, and we must, not just for the nation's survival, but for our own survival. I'm going to make it a point to talk about this down the road, not to ease up on this, to get people energized to do things that can help them, especially when it comes to taxes. So the question becomes, do you want to, as a little guy, always be hounded about your taxes, being concerned whether you're going to keep your house, whether your wages are going to be garnished? Or do you want also those folks who have much, much more than you, who are not paying their taxes, apparently not being penalized for it, to let them continually get away with it? Is this the America that you want? Are you going to sit by idly and do nothing? As I've always said, you have more power than you think that you do, but you have to exercise it. So I want everybody who has concerns about their taxes to get up, write their congressmen, their senators, and say, American businesses, big businesses, must pay their fair share. And if you folks don't do anything about it, we're going to vote you out. They don't want to be voted out. They want the jobs. They like the power. Well, if you like your power, then you're going to have to realize our power, the power to keep you in or take you out if righteousness and justice is not achieved for all. I'll see you next week.